Macquarie will only ask his question once there's quiet in the chamber. Could I have quiet in the chamber, please? Member for Rockdale, I'm not putting you on a call, but just keep quiet. Member for Lakemba, please. Member for Lakemba. A member for Macquarie Fields will stop talking. We're waiting for quiet. Sorry, Cabramatta, I meant to say. Apologies to Lakemba. Member for Lake Macquarie has a question.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, my question without notice is directed to the Minister for the Environment. Minister, come on, settle down. Minister, given your support in Sydney for additional air quality monitoring, will you now give consideration to installing independently observed air quality monitors in Lake Macquarie to validate those operated by industry, including Eraring Power Station and coal mining operations?
Minister.
Well, notwithstanding the fact the member for Lake Macquarie just misled the House on the question without notice, I very much appreciate his question, and can I just say he's definitely the best member for Lake Macquarie that there ever has been. In fact, he's probably the best bloke in the Parliament, and I know it's a low bar sometimes, but the member for Lake Macquarie, thank you for your work you do on behalf of your community, and I'm delighted to get a question on air quality today, Mr Speaker. And if there is ever a day we need some clear air, it's today, Mr Speaker. So the short answer to your question, member for Lake Macquarie, is absolutely yes. So I will ask my department to come back to me with a full briefing on this issue, and then I'm happy to come back to the member for Lake Macquarie once I have this information to explore how we can deliver air quality monitoring stations in the area, looking at those emissions from the power stations and the mines in the area. So, Mr Speaker, very happy to undertake to do that for the member for Lake Macquarie. But, Mr Speaker, this will build on the already extensive work that the EPA and the Department of the Environment do to monitor and reduce the impacts of air pollution across New South Wales. In fact, Mr Speaker, it should go without saying that every person in this state should have access to clean air. And Mr Speaker, we know that air pollution is a major cause of respiratory illness and other health impacts. In fact, we want to do everything that we reasonably can to reduce air pollution and protect public health. Mr Speaker, we know that mines and power stations have an impact on air quality, which is why we have a load-based licensing scheme in place in this state, and we have regulations in place to protect the public. Mr Speaker, the EPA licenses mines and power stations and other industrial activities, and then monitors them to ensure compliance to protect public health in New South Wales, Mr Speaker. But Mr Speaker, that said, we know that there are many causes of poor air quality in this state, including industrial activity, vehicle emissions, dust, and of course hazard reduction and bushfires. And I just want to say for the benefit of the House that we're keeping a close eye on the current bushfires and the impact that the air quality is having on the community around there. And we'll keep people informed through updates and public warnings on the EPA's website. So that work will be ongoing. Mr Speaker, the way we monitor air quality in New South Wales is through an air monitoring network, which consists of 86 monitoring sites across the state, including 20 stations in the Hunter Valley. This is the largest and most comprehensive air quality air monitoring network in the country. So Victoria only has 21, Queensland has 34, and South Australia is a long way behind on 13. So the Sydney network currently comprises 18 stations. There are 3 monitoring stations in the Illawarra, which I know the member for the Illawarra is very happy about, and also 6 on the Lower Hunter and 14 in the Upper Hunter. The regional air monitoring network includes 7 regional centres: Albury, Armidale, Bathurst, Gunnedah, Narrabri, Tamworth and Wagga Wagga North, to be exact. And the rural network consists of 35 indicative monitoring sites converted from the Community Dust Watch network. Mr Speaker, the government made some ministerial commitments in 2017 for new air quality monitoring stations, which have been established at Parramatta North, Gunnedah, Narrabri. I acknowledge the interjection from the member for Port Stephens, and like many things that we're working on, this government is absolutely committed to delivering better outcomes for our environment, Mr. Speaker? Well, given I've only been in the job for 6 months, and we're tackling some very serious environmental issues, including opening the new koala hospital up in Port Stephens, which everyone else seems grateful about, except from the member for Port Stephens. But, mate, Mr. Speaker, we are very committed to delivering for our environment in New South Wales, and I'll continue to do that, whether it be air quality or taking decisive and responsible action when it comes to tackling climate change. Or perhaps, Mr. Speaker, I can update the House on how we're going to expand the footprint of our national parks in New South Wales. And not only expand the footprint of our national parks, and I know the member for Baulkham Hills, he is our resident greenie on this side of the House, has been advocating passionately for a new national park in the electorate of Baulkham Hills. And I know he's joined by the member for Castle Hill and the mayor of the Hills Shire, who want to see more protections for our national park. So, Mr. Speaker, I'll take interjections from the member for Port Stephens any day of the week, Mr. Speaker. On the environment, we've got a great record. In fact, Mr. Speaker, there's so much more I want to say about air quality. So,
Member for Lake Macquarie.
well, I thought you never asked.
Are you seeking an extension? An additional 2 minutes is granted, but can I just ask the noise from the middle of the front bench on the opposition side, and also this end of the government, is just got to be kept in check a little bit.
Mr. Speaker, it's hard for everyone to contain their excitement about our ambitious plans to improve and protect the environment in New South Wales, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, I was just saying for the member for Lake Macquarie that we've got new air quality monitoring stations installed in Gunnedah for the benefit of the Northern Tablelands, Armidale, Orange, Rouse Hill, and recently on the Bradfield Highway. And in fact, Mr. Speaker, last week, I was delighted to announce with Sydney's Lord Mayor a new air monitoring station on top of the Cook and Phillip Pool. And I want to say, I want to thank the member for Sydney for his advocacy with regard to this important issue. It is an issue that the City of Sydney has been lobbying the government on for some time, and I'm really delighted to have started by delivering this one and looking for other opportunities to implement air quality monitoring stations around the CBD. Mr. Speaker, the air quality, New South Wales annual air quality statement in 2018 showed that air quality in New South Wales was either very good, good or fair. And Mr. Speaker, to be exact, more than 87% of the time in Sydney regions it met that criteria, 90 to 94% of the time in the Illawarra and the Southwest Slopes, Mr. Speaker, 95% of the time in the Upper Hunter and the Northwest Slopes, and 97 to 98% of the time in all other regions. Mr. Speaker, so the government is obviously committed to delivering better air quality for the citizens of this state. We're committed to reducing air pollution. We understand the impacts it has on respiratory illnesses and other human health impacts. We want to make sure that we do everything reasonably possible to protect people in this state. We've got a strong regime that the EPA has in place. We monitor that regime. There's a low-based licensing scheme in place, Mr. Speaker. That said, there's always room for improvement. And I'm committed to working with the member for Lake Macquarie to get a briefing on where we could get air quality monitoring stations in the Lake Macquarie area for the betterment of his community.
Member for Holsworth.